Hey, I'm your host, Ed Parcaut. I'm here today with Paul Barron, and he created the wall printer. And I ran into him out in the world out there, not him personally, but the product. I thought it was such a unique thing that I needed to have it on the show. So, Paul, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Ed. It's a pleasure to be here and talk with you and your audience.
All right, thank you. And so have you always been in the printing business?
I have never been in the printing business. My background, and I won't bore your audience by going back to Paul was born at a very young age, but let's just say that over the 70 years you see in front of you, I've had about 5 decades of wearing various hats. I've started up my own businesses, small businesses, everything across the board from retail to consumer packaged goods to service businesses, software development, and I've worked for some large companies as well. I've learned over the years what hats I like to wear and what hats I don't like to wear. The past 4 decades, I've spent marketing foreign companies' products into the United States, meaning that I would take a product, it's everywhere from software technology companies out of Israel and Russia to consumer packaged goods, such as a baby bottle from manufactured in Austria, to a Chinese headband headphone, a self-service dog wash from Australia, and I've identified the customers and partners, vendors, manufacturers for these products here in the United States to help these companies grow, establish their footprint, or perhaps position themselves for an exit. And that's pretty much what I do. I've retired several times over the years. I've had some successes of my own businesses. I've had some what I like to call lesser successes. Other companies, other people may call those things failures. I call them learning experiences.
I actually call them Edison moments, but who am I?
That's quite all right. And they're moments that we should appreciate for what you get out of them, and hopefully how they make you move forward from there. What's the old saying? It's not how many times you fall down, but how many times you get up. And right. So that's nothing could be more true in the world of business and entrepreneurship. Not everything is going to be just the hockey stick uphill ride. There's going to be hills and valleys along the way. But I've been very fortunate. I've made some good money working for other people. I've retired a couple of times. I've made some good money working for myself. Again, I've learned what hats I like to wear over the years: sales and marketing for the most part, administration, finance, those types of things, not so much. So that's why I found some level of success taking products and helping those companies find their high value markets and customers. But I've said that I didn't want to work for anybody after a certain point. And so I was approached once again several years ago by a German manufacturer of a vertical printing machine, something I had never seen or heard about before. Now, no disrespect to you or your audience or anybody with German heritage. I myself drive a BMW and I value a well-engineered product. But just because something says made in Germany, I learned along the way, and with this particular company that approached me, that it's not necessarily worth 2 to 3 times what something else of comparable quality might be worth. And so this was the case here. It was a very expensive product, although a very interesting product to me. The expense of the product is not what turned me off, but it was the fact that as I did my homework, I found out that there were alternatives, many of which were much more feature rich and interesting in the way that I was looking at them, which was to create business opportunities for people who wanted to use this to add art to walls, indoors, outdoors, any surface, maybe a complement to an existing business. Maybe they're in the printing, signage, photographic, muralists, painting businesses, and they want to just add additional revenue to what they already do, or strictly a startup business opportunity. So I decided to do my homework, and I rejected the offer I was given by this German company. But I found that there were 4 other manufacturers in the world, none of which were in the United States. Or even in North or South America, not in the Western Hemisphere at all, which accounts for the reason why I thought this was so interesting and I had never seen it before. But I pursued the technology to the extent that I started kicking the tires of all those manufacturers, 4 other ones in the world that make this product. I identified what I considered the best one out there, which happened to be the oldest one and the one that created the technology. It was a Chinese-based company. I rejected the 4 other companies for one reason or another, which happy to get into it with anybody who wants to do their homework and see what's out there. But I determined that this was the product that had the value and the features and the reliability that I could get behind. And when I mean get behind, again, it was because my vision is always for other people's success. If other people can be successful, I'm successful. And it comes back to you usually in spades.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found that this product,
Paul,
yeah.
I totally agree with you. I just want to put that out there. That
Okay.
what you give out there, you give back, like you said, in spades. It's important for people to understand that. So when we create opportunities for other people, that in turns, I don't want to say it's selfish, but basically that's how it works for us. So I just want to add it in a little bit there. So you're just not on your own talking, but so keep going now with your conversation. I'm sorry. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Look, I'm from New York originally. I've got no pride in this kind of stuff. You can interrupt me at any time.
I just don't want you to lose your train of thought. And I'm not saying it because your age. I'm just saying in general. Sometimes people, they're on their talk and then you interrupt them and they forgot what they were talking about. But
I usually forget what I'm talking about in the middle of a sentence. So if you want to interrupt me, Ed, please do by all means. And and if you need to get me back on track, do that as well. But where I was leaving off was exactly as you said, is that I was looking for opportunities where other people could reach their own personal and business and financial goals and dreams, whether it be for themselves, for their customers, their families, whatever. And again, these could be people in the business already of art and painting, which are the core elements of the wall printer. And we also have a floor printer where we paint images, digital images on floors. And so it's really more bigger than that. It's the opportunity for people to build a business. And so you don't need any experience in painting or photography or art to use a wall printer. Training takes about 2 to 3 hours at most. And like most things in life, doing it, as Nike would like to say in their advertising, just do it. If you have a wall printer and you have the instructional materials we prepared and you follow them along with the support that we're there for backup for our customers, you'll learn how to use these machines very quickly. And finding customers, if you or your audience wants to go to our website, thewallprinter.com, you will very easily, in about 15 seconds, see a video of the machine working, and you get it. You understand what it does. Finding customers who want to put art on walls, not a problem. We get over 150 inquiries every day. We've been doing this for about 3 years now. We put 75 people, 75 businesses in action throughout the U.S., Canada, South America, Central America, Puerto Rico. These are the territories we service out of Wilmington, North Carolina. And again, we don't provide the services of putting the wall art onto walls and floors. That's what our customers do. We simply support them with the good technology, the machines. We manufacture our own inks. We give them all the tools they need to run a successful business. In fact, we also give them exclusivity in the territory, because I always believe that when something is new and unique, I'll qualify this by telling your audience, this is not a franchise. I've actually been in franchising for over 15 years in a past life, and I did not want this to be a franchise. We don't dip into the pockets of our customers by taking pieces of their royalties. We don't make them call themselves the wall printer. Our 75 plus customers create their own logo, their own brand. We put it on the printer, so it works like an advertisement in their communities when they're out there servicing customers. And so they create their own business, and we just support them. And we support them with not only the marketing that we do, but again, giving them exclusivity so that they are the only ones doing this in their territory and the only ones that we will sell wall printing machinery and support the wall printing machinery to them in their territory. When I tell people who want to be in this business, look, it's going to be good news and bad news. The good news is you're going to be the first person in Modesto, California, Ed, to be a wall printer. The bad news is you're going to be the first person in Modesto, California to be a wall printer, because it's up to you to educate your market as to what wall printing is. It's not like buying a Dunkin' Donuts or a landscape or pest control company or a plumbing enterprise. This is, and all of them may be very good and may make money and may be exciting to people. But I get excited about innovative products and technology. That's why I found this and why I kind of invested heavily in creating a market for it, as well as the support needed for our customers to be successful. So that's the story.
All right. So great story. Question I have about the printer. All right. So let's talk about what's the cost on average for an individual for the ink that's involved? Like say the painting that's behind you.
Yeah. So let me answer this two ways. The first question is, for somebody to be in this business, you need about $35,000 in liquid capital. That's what it takes. $25,000 is the cost of the machine. $10,000 is the minimum cost of a territory, and territory goes by population. For $10,000, you get exclusive rights to a population of 300,000 people. And so it's about $35,000 to get involved in this business. The return on investment, well, I'll let the numbers speak for themselves.
I'm just on average,
Yeah,
just curious.
To answer your question, what's behind me is a 5-foot by 8-foot graphic. Digital image, and that's what our machines need. You take any digital formatted image, just like you take with your phone, or you create with a graphics program like Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop, the tools of the trade in the graphics business. You take a vector file, which can enlarge to any size and look beautiful. So this picture here is 5 feet by 8 feet. There's no limit, by the way, to the size that all wall printing machines can print. You can put a 50-foot mural on the outside of a building. You can go as wide as you want for a big billboard, but we can get into the technicalities of that. But back to the 5 by 8 here. So that's 40 square feet. That has about $10 worth of ink in it. Ink costs anywhere from 25 to 40 cents per square foot based on the image and the colors that are in it, but average 25 cents a square foot. So 40 square feet, $10 worth of ink. It takes about 2 hours to print this. It would take an artist 2 days or more to do this. It takes us, and we're not taking the food off the table of artists or muralists either. There is very few artists that before they take paint to brush to wall will not create that digitally these days. And so what we're doing is just taking that digital image and just accelerating the production of it onto a wall, any surface, indoors or outdoors. This particular surface in my office is cement block, which my warehouse is made out of. So 5 feet by 8 foot, 40 square feet, takes 2 hours to print, $10 worth of ink. Let's put a labor cost of $15 on that. And because this is a machine that, unlike a printing company that prints out vinyl stickers or posters or something, you actually take this machine to the customer's restaurant or home or school, hospital, whatever, and paint the image on the wall. And so let's say it takes an hour to get there, an hour to go home, another hour just for setup and moving the machine around. 5 hours total labor to do this. $15 an hour, $75, $10 worth of ink, $85. The minimum you would charge a customer for something like this is $15 an hour, and most of our customers are charging $20 to $25 to $30 or even more per hour. A lot of that has to do with, does the wall need to be primed? Does it need prep? Are you walking up a 3-story walk-up in some residence or something? So,
that's your New York back.
Yeah. Do you have to erect scaffolding? Think of a window washer on a building. There's no limit to the height. You can do a 50-foot mural, but you've got to get a high-low or a forklift, and you've got to get scaffolding, all of that stuff. My dad would call those things rich man problems. If you've got a big, expensive print like that, well, you're going to pay for that and pay for those services. But back to a basic image, you go into somebody's home and you paint something like this, 40 square feet, 5 feet by 8 feet. It's going to be $15 minimally. That's $600 return on what was $100 out of pocket expenses, labor and ink, travel.
Right.
So that's the typical ROI.
All right. What's the involved with prepping the walls kind of thing? Is there a special primer you have to put on? Is there anything?
No, there's no. Some walls will, like if you walk into a home, I'll give you an example. Some of our best customers are painters, general contractors, people in the construction business. So you go into a home and now you've already painted the walls eggshell white or whatever, and you've got wallboard sheetrock that's all painted or whatever the surface might be. whether it's brick or plastic or wood or whatever. If you want to prime it with a color, you can. If you don't want to lose the features of the wall or the nice dark color the wall may be, green or mauve or whatever, black or whatever the wall might be, our inks will go right over that and pop out so that it looks beautiful regardless of the background. That's one of the things that differentiates our printer from that German printer I mentioned earlier, and others, because we have a patent on actually applying white ink behind the colors of the image, which is almost like a primer that gets applied automatically, that lets the image pop out and the colors look very vibrant, even on a dark surface. If you have a wall like the one behind me, which was all white and primered to begin with, you just go ahead and start printing right on it without any prep at all, except clean it off of any dust or something like that. You could print on glass. You have to apply first alcohol and wipe it down so it's dry. You don't want there to be moisture between the inks that you're applying and the surface. Otherwise, the inks won't really adhere as well as possible. But basically just dusting it off, cleaning it off, having a nice clean coat of primer on the wall surface. And you could put an image on any wall, indoors, outdoors, stucco, glass, metal, tile, wood, makes no difference.
And how long does the color last?
So outdoors, these are UV inks, which are resilient to temperature, UV light from the sun. We have prints outside of our building here in Wilmington, North Carolina, that have gone through 3 hurricanes and 3 summers of 100-degree plus temperatures, and hailstorms and everything else that comes with normal weather changes of the seasons. Outdoors, they'll last 3 to 5 years generally. The inks will last. Indoors, 12 to 15 years. But the nice thing about it too is you'll probably find a customer who's more bored with the image before it actually wears out or starts chipping because of the environment or something, and they'll want to just change it. All you have to do to change an image is primer over it and start again. A child grows up, they like some type of ballet or Disney or cartoon characters on their walls today, but then they get into the Olympics, or they grow up and they like a hockey team and they want to put the logo on the wall of the man cave in the home. They can go ahead and do all of that and just primer over and start again.
Well, it sounds like you have a great business there with that wall printer. And, anybody's listening who wants to get involved, go to thewallprinter.com and talk to him. Find out the information about it. I'm not getting rid of you. I'm just wanting to put that in here while we're talking. And again, if you like what we do here, make sure you follow us. Paul, so building this business over the last, you said 3 years, correct?
Correct.
You've been doing this. All right. So we talked, the product is great. I saw the on your website, the one for the floor.
Yeah.
And same thing there. It lasts for.
Yeah. So just like, people want to print digital art on the walls, it was actually created originally because people wanted personalized parking spaces on concrete in garages. And so, but then we extended that, of course, to companies who have a foyer or an outdoor sport court, and they want to put a logo on it, or whether it be a family logo if it's personal, or a school logo. All of those kinds of things can be put down like you see on any kind of a basketball, tennis court, a picture of a dolphin on the bottom of a swimming pool. You can do all of those things with the floor printer. The only difference is one prints vertically, one prints along a floor. But the same technology, the same UV inks that will withstand environmental conditions and all of that kind of stuff is in both these types of printers.
Yeah, I saw it on the floor of a warehouse, a rug. That was pretty neat.
Yeah, we did that in our warehouse. It was like a tapestry kind of flying carpet kind of thing. And you could do anything as good as the image is created. And what I mean by that is you get what you see is what you get. So if you want to paint like this window you see behind me that looks like the window is open, if you paint something that has a 3D appearance, you'll get a 3D appearance because the resolution of the printers is so good that you can get that. If you want, we have another print outside of our building of an elephant crashing through the concrete wall. Once again, it's a 2D image, but because it graphically is created that way, then that's the appearance that you get because the resolution is so good. Floor printer, wall printer. Again, it's just a really cool technology.
All right, so let's look back at this great technology. I'm glad I learned about it. I'm going to check in it some more myself. Looking back on the last 3 years, any Edison moments? Or you any?
Well, first of all, I wasn't. So here's the personal background of me getting involved in a business. Um, I'm out there surfing the net and I'm looking for interesting things. So in the wall printer, which the generic name is vertical printing machine. So when I saw a vertical printing machine, the first thing I do is I yell to my wife in the other room and I say, "Hey, Maureen, come take a look at this." Well, the first thing she does whenever she hears me say, "Come take a look at this," is rather than come into my office and see what I'm looking at, she cuts up my credit cards and hides the bank account because she says, "Oh, here we go again. He's going to invest in some other crazy thing." And so this one she took a look at, and she was all in right from the beginning, just as I was. And then the more we found out about it, then we actually got into it. But as to answer your question, when I finally decided on this, it was late 2019, a little bit more than 2 years ago. And that was after a year of research and everything else when I finally decided to make the investment and made the agreement with the manufacturer of these machines to my satisfaction. Got a couple of patents, which gave me the security that I wanted for not only myself growing and investing in this market, but for my customers as well, to know that they would have unique features that nobody else would have in delivering this type of solution. And so once I did all that, I invested, purchased my first bunch of machines. They arrived in December of 2019, January of 2020. Here I sit with a truckload of machines from China that are all in Chinese, by the way, and COVID comes around. So yeah, my first moment was the fact that here I was with something that nobody's ever seen or heard about. I've invested considerable amount in this, and nobody's coming to see it. Again, not like a coffee shop or a plumbing franchise or a food business or something like that. This is nothing that anybody knows about. So here's COVID, travel stops, people stop, and all that kind of stuff. Me, all right, so I'm a little crazy. When I'm willing to take a risk, and that's also the kind of person we're looking for, somebody who sees the opportunity and is not afraid to take a risk on something. So I was all in. And as a result of that, where everybody was laying people off in 2020 or working remotely and all that kind of circumstance that came around because of COVID, I started investing in people. And I started hiring the people not only on the marketing end of things that could help me identify who wants this, who's going to be our best customer, and starting developing a social media campaign program of marketing this to gather that information. And then on the other hand, on the technical side, hiring people to be able to learn how to use the machines and support them and translate all the language that they came into me into English, French, Canadian, Spanish, Portuguese, which are all the markets that I'm serving today out of our North Carolina warehouse. And so we did all of that for 8-9 months before the first person actually came to take a look at it because of travel restrictions and everything else. Now, the good thing about that was that I figured there are a lot of people doing just what I did, surf the net, figuring out, the nice thing about COVID, apologies to everybody that's been affected by it in a negative way. But the good thing from a business perspective and a career perspective is it gave a lot of people pause to think about what do they want to do? Do they really want to continue working for or with the company that they're working with? Do they want to work in the same way? Do they want to start their own business? People started thinking about these types of things that otherwise they may not have. And so we were the beneficiaries of that exploration that people were doing into their own personal business, financial growth life, if you will. And so, like, what's next for Paul when he grows up? Something that I ask myself every day. And so so we were the beneficiaries of that. And we got a lot of people interested and wanting to learn more about it. So that when things started easing up a little bit in terms of travel and people trying to make a decision on something in their next chapter of their lives, we became on their short list of businesses to consider. And so starting in about August of 2020 is when we first sold our first territory and machine. And since then, as I mentioned earlier, we've got about 75 new businesses and new business owners that we've established. And so we continue to grow by selling between 1 and 2 new territories and machines every single week.
Well, any in California?
We do. We do have in Temecula, California, a transitioning vet coming out of the military. Very, very wonderful family. They bought this because he wanted to know what was the next in his life after leaving 20 years service in our military. And so that's Temecula, California. We have another company that's in the hotel and construction business in Laguna Beach, Huntington Beach, and Newport Beach, California, that they own those territories. But California is a big place. It's wide open. We get about 150 inquiries every day. Granted, 140 of those 150, not to make myself sound like, boy, we're just rolling in it today. We pick and choose very carefully the types of people that we think will be successful with this, but also the 140 of 150 people that inquire every day from our social media, website, everything else, not unlike how you found me, is the person who looks at this and says, they find out it's not a $100 desktop printer, but it costs $25,000 for the machine, and then they go away. Some subset of those 140 people like that do say, but that looks interesting. Yeah, I've got a wall in my home, or I've got a friend with a business that this could be really cool in their Italian restaurant or something. Let me consider that. And so we take that information, and then when we have a wall printer in those territories, we pass those inquiries off to them. But 10 out of the 150 are people who see this and they're not scared that it's a $25,000, $35,000 investment. They're looking for a business. They're looking for something, whether to do themselves hands-on or to hire people and grow, which is our ideal customer, somebody who sees this as a business and not necessarily experts in printing or signage or something like that. So these are the people that we want to go ahead and really begin to service and support. And that's the other 10 out of the 150.
They're calling now for you.
They're always calling. They're always calling. Sorry about that.
Don't worry about it. It's how that is when we're doing these things. And that's okay. They'll edit some of it out. So we're fine with that. So somebody who wants to, I kind of wanted to how did you get into, I don't want to go too long today, but how did you get into taking businesses from other countries and bring them into the United States? How did you fall into that area?
Well, that's a great question.
Because a lot of people don't plan their life, right? I mean, we do the best, and then all of a sudden we run into something. Myself, I didn't go to school to get my master's and bachelor's to say I wanted to be in the mortgage industry. It just happened. So
yeah, so for me too, I always knew that I wanted to be in my own business, first of all. Somebody told me a long time ago, words that I still live by today. When I was in my 20s, I made a lot of money working for a company as a salesperson for a jewelry manufacturing company. And I found out that the company did so well based on my sales efforts, which was the primary role that I had, that I got a $1,000 bonus in my first year there. It was Christmas. And this was, like I said, I was in my 20s. This was in the 70s. That was a lot of money. I was making a good salary besides that. But I went and I found out that the owner of the company and his son, who was destined to take over the company, they each cut themselves a check for about 25 grand that year because of the profits that the company made. And so I went into him after receiving this, and I said, I really like working here. I think I do a good job. I really appreciated the bonus, and I appreciate the salary I'm making. I said, but I really think that I kind of deserve a raise. And he said to me something which I'll share with you and your audience, which I always consider with my own employees, is he said, Paul, he goes, when you work for somebody else, you'll never make what you think you're worth. But when you work for me, I'll make sure you're paid more than anybody else will pay you, which he did. And I appreciated and respected that. And I quit the next day, and I went to work for a competitor of his, doing half the work and making twice the money in the same industry as a salesperson. But at the same time, I learned that was the first job that I quit. I was not only the salesperson, but once I got the sales, I was then I was overseeing the manufacturing, the distribution, the fulfillment, logistics, a lot of other things, inventory, a lot of things that I really didn't like doing on a management level. And then also hiring and firing and training people, also tasks that I really did not like so much. I liked dealing with customers, and I just became very good at building relationships, something in my life I'm very proud of. I have a group of friends that are with me from the time I was born and through college that we're still friends 50, 60, 70 years later in some cases. And we get together often. Relationships are the most important thing that anybody can have in their lives. Family you're born with, you can't pick and choose them. So you're stuck with them. You try to make the best of it. I'm lucky in that regard, too, that I have a wonderful family. But at the same time, your friends you can pick. And if you pick wisely, they're going to be there for you, good times and bad times. And it's just something that I always am very pleased with in my life. And so these building relationships is something that I enjoy, and I was good at it. And companies that I worked for and products that I found, I just basically said, gee, if I like that, because I think of myself as a fairly normal, although some people argue that characterization, but I think myself as a normal consumer, that if I see something that either solves a problem that I'm having or adds value to my life or that of my family, or just is something that I can afford and has some kind of value to me, I'll buy it. And so I look at other people the same way. Do I have a product or a service that is a solution to a problem you're having? And then sometimes I found, in fact, more often than not, it's not the product or service I'm selling, but it's something else that somebody else has a problem with. And then they rely on me because I'm pretty good at not taking no for an answer. And so if somebody says they've got a problem with something, I'm going to go and look and see, well, why can't they solve that problem, or can I solve it for them? Can I find the product, the vendor, the resource that these people need to solve that problem? And sometimes it had absolutely nothing to do with anything I was going to benefit from financially, but I built a relationship. And so over the years, people would come to me, having absolutely nothing to do with me or anything I was doing or any company I was working for or owned at the time, and just said, we have this particular product and we're trying to identify who the best customers are. Or when it was the case, like a baby bottle company that was manufactured in Austria, there was a company considering being the distributor for that product here in the US. And they came to me and they said, Paul, can you help us identify the young mothers and the baby product companies and the online companies that will sell baby bottles, and help evangelize this product, find people who influence young mothers buying baby products. And so these are the kind of things that I was happy to do for them. And most of the time, it was always on the job learning for me. These are things that I never had any experience before, just like I've had no experience with vertical printing or any kind of printing. But I look at who wants it. Who wants it? Will it make their lives better? Will it make their customer lives better? Will it make them money? Will it be something that they can grow and leave to their children or their employees as they become successful? And that's how it happens.
All right. So I want to reiterate what you said, that relationships are the most important thing, basically.
You have taken my 1,000 words and made it into the 10 right ones.
And I don't know if they're the 10 right ones, but I kind of want to leave it here because that's important. People don't realize it's the relationships we build that allow us to do other things. And that's some of the reasons I do the podcast. I get to know people in other markets that I would never normally meet walking into them, but I can talk to them from across the country and interview them and have them on the show, and I can get to know them. And those relationships have created other things for me, just like what you just said. So I think we should. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what it's about. And you never know where look, you cannot have a conversation with anyone and leave it knowing less than when you started. So, just take it for what it is. It may not serve you well. It may not be any benefit to you, but you'll learn something. You'll know something about somebody, about what they do. And who knows whether it be right then and there or 10 years down the road, you'll say, I remember somebody who did that or can help me with this. And that's what's important.
I totally agree. And the other thing is, you were talking about sales and everything, and because that's my background, I've been in sales forever, and I don't like taking no either. I figure ways around it all the time, and it's important as a person. We've lost those people these days. I think it's important for us to teach the next generation that's going to be there that benefit and that kind of stuff. And I don't think it's there right now. I think the 20-year-olds, whatever, are not us when we were 20-year-olds that were strong. You know, I mean, we were hungry, wanting to do this. The ones today's are not the same. And so I see that generation really needs help, and I'm here to help them. I'm sure you're here to help them too, but I just see it's a problem going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I teach a course as a guest lecturer at the University of North Carolina in Wilmington in their sales and marketing track. I'm a mentor and an advisor for the Cameron Business School, which is Cameron School of Business, which is part of the University for Entrepreneurship. And the class that I teach is called The New Rules of Selling. And the gist of it is, in a nutshell, is that what used to be the case where, you go and you buy a car, and for example, and you'd go into the showroom and you'd test drive a car, and you'd order a car with you'd want it to be a certain features, certain colors, you want to add air conditioning, power windows, special doors, special wheels, whatever. And then they'd order it and you'd get it a couple of months later. Now with the internet, you have the opportunity to go and research everything first. And I don't care whether you're buying a car, or you're going out to the movies, or you're going to a restaurant, or you're buying golf clubs. Whatever it is, you can find it on the internet. You can do all your research, find out what it's going to cost you, the best deal around, and all that kind of stuff. Whereas everything is all about marketing now, not about selling. But from the sales, because the people coming in when they're ready to buy something will either pull the trigger by ordering it online or going into the store, knowing exactly what they want and just purchasing it. There's none of this really interaction anymore, which on one level is good. On some other levels, it's not so good. But the one thing that is a constant is that the rules of selling may have changed, or the rules of marketing, but they're changed in a different way. Whereas we used to call somebody up on the telephone, you get a lot of telemarketers. Now you have online chat, you have social media, you have comments. So you have to know how to write, because when you send an email or you do a comment on the internet, or you give somebody a review, or somebody reviews your products, it's a whole different language skill. Some of it is better because you can be more thoughtful when you write something, but there can also be a tone in what you write that people can misinterpret, or just not really understand what you're trying to say or ask. And so there's different skills we need nowadays to be salespeople, and good marketers. And that's a good journey that a lot of people don't understand how to get from here to there. So that's also important to understand when people are going out into the world of selling and marketing.
Yeah, because I sold by the phone for 18 years, so tones and inflections in people's voices, I could totally, sell around anybody. But when you're writing an email or text, just like you're talking about, someone can take that totally wrong because they can't hear what you can hear when you're talking to somebody.
Exactly
So
right.
So I think it's important to go back to the old ways, but then add in some of the new stuff, but really focus on the relationships that you were talking about. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, and I encourage people in your audience, this isn't an advertisement or a promotion for LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is a professional network that you can find people who are interested in things that you may be interested in. It's not only a good way to introduce yourself, your products, your services, but it's also a good resource to find people doing things to explore and ask them. I always invite people to, search me out on LinkedIn and connect with me if they want to talk about this or something else. It doesn't have to be a potential customer. They may have something to do with, a business journey of their own, and they'd like to talk to me about that or something. I invite that all the time. And so that's something I encourage people to do for themselves, is to have a LinkedIn profile and to go out and take advantage of it to explore whatever path they're looking to take in the business world. It's not like the social media outlets like Instagram and Facebook and Reddit and other things that are more of a social. I mean, they're good for marketing too, but not marketing yourself or identifying things that you may want to do with your career path.
I totally agree about LinkedIn. A lot of people never went on there and they didn't realize how important it is. And it's the other ones are good for, like you just said, but LinkedIn definitely you have to be on. Paul, anything else you want to leave before we go today?
No, I just invite people, if they're interested at all in what I'm doing. As I said, you can connect with me on LinkedIn generally. If specifically you want to know something about the wall printer, please go to thewallprinter.com, fill out a form. You're not going to be inundated with a lot of sales stuff. We'll just go ahead and send you the information, and you can determine whether or not this is the right thing for you or not.
Paul, thank you so much for being here today. And I want to thank everybody for listening to the show. And again, we're here every Tuesday. So thank you, Paul, so much for being here. Have a great day.
Ed, a pleasure. Thank you.